Hey YouTube, I wanted to talk to you today about one of the two diseases that I live with. It's called celiac disease. It is an autoimmune disorder where I can't process gluten. Now gluten is a protein, which means it's really, really tiny, you can't even see it. It's a protein in wheat, rye, barley, sometimes oats just because they can be contaminated. And so yeah, if I do happen to eat or ingest any type of gluten, I get really, really sick. Vomiting, diarrhea, cramping, just severe stomach, gastrointestinal issues. So it's not pretty, it's not fun. I wouldn't wish that pain on anyone. It really, really sucks. So, just kind of a backstory. I was actually diagnosed when I was 16 years old. That's 10 years ago. And when I was diagnosed, I actually didn't have any symptoms. It can go hand in hand with diabetes because they're both autoimmune disorders or diseases. So it was just part of like the annual blood workup. Something in the blood work was abnormal. So then they did a biopsy of my small intestine. They did an endoscopy down my throat and took a little bit of my intestine, and it turns out that I was positive for celiac disease. Now what happens internally with celiac is in your small intestine you have all these little finger-like projectiles. They're called villi, and they actually absorb the nutrients from food. So when a person with celiac disease, such as myself, ingests gluten, the villi actually die and your small intestine becomes smooth. So you can't ingest all the nutrients, you can't process anything, it just goes right through you, makes you really sick, things like that. I want to point out that I'm not a doctor if I'm not explaining this correctly. Whoops, sorry. This is just how I understand it. You know, I have been living with it for 10 years, so not a doctor, okay? Just trying to explain it for people to understand it. So forgive me if I have said something wrong, if you're a doctor or nurse or something. So yeah, where was I? Diagnosed when I was 16, but I actually didn't have any symptoms that can happen, which is strange. You can have celiac disease but not show any symptoms at all. So I actually didn't start eating gluten-free till I was 20. Try telling a 16-year-old that they can't go out for pizza with their friends. Yeah, and then I went off to college, things like that. But when I was 20, I just kind of, I don't know, I made that decision, made that lifestyle choice. I think I did start doing research on some of the long-term effects of not eating gluten-free when you need to. Things like cancer and infertility and et cetera, et cetera. So who knows what kind of damage I did within those 4 years. Ooh, hopefully not a lot. But now that I've eaten gluten-free and been completely gluten-free for 6 years now, I'm actually pretty sensitive to it. So I can tell really easily when I just get cross-contaminated. And what I mean by that is you can make a regular sandwich with regular bread on the countertop, and then the second, you can even just like brush off the crumbs, whatnot, but the second you put a gluten-free piece of bread on that same counter, it's contaminated. You would need to wash it with soap and water in order to make it gluten-free again. So our apartment here, our kitchen is completely gluten-free. We have a gluten-free toaster. I don't have to worry about like the oven, pots, pans, utensils, anything like that. We always eat gluten-free. Occasionally, like I said, Teddy will have beer here, which is fine, but occasionally, he'll order a gluten-free pizza, but he won't actually cook anything on the surfaces that are gluten-free. So that's really nice. Like I said, moving forward with trying to conceive and pregnancy, it shouldn't be an issue. I'm really careful about my diet now. It shouldn't, just shouldn't be an issue. One thing I'm concerned about, like, what if during my pregnancy, like, I'm really, really craving something full of gluten, like, really want a cinnamon roll or something, I don't know. Obviously, they make gluten-free options in, like, most foods now, gluten-free breads and pastries and whatnot, but I just kind of laugh about that right now. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. Hopefully this gave you a little bit more information about celiac disease, as well as my story with it, diagnosis, and living gluten-free every day. Like I said, I'm not a doctor. Correct me if I got any of that information wrong. Hopefully I put it in a way for you guys all to understand it. The next video I want to make for you guys is all about living with diabetes, type 1 diabetes. So be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, in the meantime, I'm going to be editing and uploading our honeymoon videos. So stay tuned for that, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!